Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. A busy hoops week around here. And if you've been listening to WNST, you know I've had a lot of hoops stuff on. You go out to the buyatoyota.com audio vault and hear more stuff as we prepare for the Terrapins this week and next week into the Big Ten tournament. And, of course, UMBC, Towson, other local teams getting going this week. UMBC this Saturday hosting Albany. Robert Canady here. He is our local hoops insider. You can find him at Buckets and Birds out on Twitter, as well as when the weather gets a little better, and this is not a week for good weather, you'll find him down at Compass Point Golf in Pasadena doing the work down there. What's up, Rob? How you doing, man? We got playoff basketball this week for a bunch of schools that had some scuffles and had some struggles. UMBC, this is their week. Towson, this is their week, and Maryland will get their chance next week and 2 weeks from now. But this is the couple of weeks where we should be talking about basketball around here, right?
Yeah, this is kind of what we've been waiting for, beginning back in October during the practices and preseason prognostications and all that. Now we'll see how everyone's doing. And, the smaller conferences, the UMBC and Towson, kick off their tournaments this coming weekend. And, UMBC hosts a home game against Albany, so they get that first-round game and to host. And that worked out well for them last year by winning that and kind of propelled them on to winning the tournament even when they went up to the road and won at Vermont. So,
well, it's a fascinating week. There's the UMBC folks, they're trying to fill the arena on Saturday, so everybody go down there Saturday and support them. But, falling down the mountain 2 weeks ago and losing games, and then what will happen at other games will decide whether they play on Tuesday or next Saturday and what and where and who and all that. It is an interesting week from that perspective where, Maryland knows they're going out to Chicago, whether it's next Thursday, whether it's next Friday. There's going to be a tournament there. The other tournaments that move around and play at higher seeds, it becomes sort of a wacky campus thing around a lot of those places. And I know you've been on the inside of it before. Mike Ashley, I always talked to him about it, down at Radford and stuff like that at smaller schools. This is a week for, craziness at UMBC because if they win and the right thing happens and the wrong team loses, then they get to host more games, right?
Right, absolutely. And the environment this past Saturday, in their final home game against New Hampshire, it turned into no playoff spot was on the line, kind of a seeding was, but the environment there was good. They had, pretty much the entire lower bowl filled, not so much in the upper deck, but a full student section, which is great. And, the game turned out closer than it probably Ryan would have liked it to be, but they won it with a 3, with a second to go. So, it was a great way to go into the tournament, as far as with the excitement there in the building. And, Ryan got on the PA system right after the game was over and thanked everyone for coming and encouraged them to come this coming Saturday as well. So they're building something there. It's nice to see them have come back from with a very successful season off last year's tournament run. So we'll see what happens here in their conference tournament, and chances of them making it back are Vermont's a tough hill to climb, but they beat them twice this year, so you never know what'll happen. But so we'll see what happens, but they get going Saturday, and unfortunately I'll be in the air on the way to Florida about the time that tips off, so I won't actually be out at UMBC for that one. But I'll definitely. Is
there a golf engagement or something? I have a feeling it has something to do with golf if you're leaving playoff basketball.
Yeah, it is. It's a conference down there with our company, with all 140 courses of us gathering at once for our annual conference. So we'll be talking golf and probably playing a little bit of golf while we're down there as well.
Well, look, I'll get to the golf part of this because I know you got Irish Opens down at Compass Point and all that. But let's backtrack and go to Maryland, and then we'll go through all of the local teams, including the Coppin State hat I'm wearing. We're going to have their action here on WNST as well as supporting UMBC this week and what they're doing. But Maryland, my Maryland. Oh, boy, right? The Penn State loss was bad. The Michigan loss, I think they could play 10 times and Maryland would struggle to win 1 or 2, quite frankly, after watching that. But where we are with Bruno Fernando, where we are with point guard play or shooting guard play or a point guard who's a shooting guard, we don't know what he is, but he needs to take better shots. And then there's just where the freshmen are in all of this. And whether they play on Thursday, whether they play Friday next week, whether they win or lose. I had John Crispin on from the Big Ten Network. They're getting a bid, right? They're going to the tournament, and they're going to have to win 2 games no matter who they get put in front of them. But they haven't done themselves very well over the last couple of weeks to really seed themselves where they need to be unless they catch fire next week in Chicago, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the golden opportunity against Michigan, and sure, you look at Michigan being the number 9 team in the country, and is the favorite and everything. But that was the opportunity at home against the fired up, as big of environment as they've had all year there. Maybe other than the Virginia game on national television, CBS network. So it was there to really make a statement, to not just the conference, but to the rest of the country watching on a Sunday afternoon. So and they didn't do it, and that's could be expected, but that's a game you really would have liked to see them win to set themselves up going into that tournament and have confidence about it. You've talked about all the freshmen that are playing, and they've starting to play a little bit like freshmen. You'd have to say of late, with the 3 of 5 losses. In the Penn State game, we won't even try to figure out what happened.
Well, there have been a couple of days when you talk about freshmen where they didn't wake up. Seton Hall, Illinois, obviously Penn State, and some other games where they were kind of asleep in the beginning and battled back. The Iowa game was a little sticky. I mean, some of their games were sticky at the end. You mentioned, all these games that are last shot kind of games. Maryland's played in every kind of game you can imagine, going back to the Virginia game, and Virginia's going to be a number 1 seed here probably before it's all over with too. So they've had it all, but the nights at Penn State sort of worry you for what they're going to see 3 weeks from now, and saying if you're going to be uninspired in a dead environment, you're going to find the dead environment in the tournament, because that's what the tournament is. The tournament are big games played in big arenas with small crowds for the most part.
Yeah, especially those first 2 days. Now, obviously, they don't have to worry about playing on Wednesday afternoon down there in Chicago, next week. But right now they're sitting at Thursday, which is, and I think if they go in as the 5 seed, that would be the second game. That would be like a 2:00 Thursday afternoon game, and that's certainly not most likely going to be a full arena. Having been to the Big Ten tournament before, I've seen what those early games on Thursday are like, and before the top 4 seeds get there. So they could face kind of a dead environment, and the Minnesota game Friday night is a good opportunity for them to kind of turn it around, put up a good performance, say we're ready for this tournament, kind of work out the kinks that they've had. And it's been the same kinks all season. It's been, turnovers and scoring droughts. I mean, if you go back and anyone that's watched them this season, that's no secret that they've had just really extended periods of scoring droughts, and sometimes twice in the same game. And, I think they're at the bottom or near the bottom of the league in turnover ratio. And, some of that obviously speaks to the freshmen. We've talked about all year the team goes as Cowan goes, and he's struggled up late a little bit as well. So they need to find some more scoring, some more consistent scoring behind him. Wiggins is, I think, a person that can do that, but his for some reason he hasn't played a lot the last couple of games. I don't know if there's been an issue health wise or coaching wise or defense wise or all the above, but they need to find a more, reliable scoring option than just Cowan, heading into the tournament, because everyone knows that he's the guy and they'll be focused on him. And, we saw Michigan kind of, playing pretty tough and what happened there.
Turgeon, you down on him, Rob? For me, all I do is hear on Facebook and Twitter and social media, people are crushing him, right? And he's clearly got good kids. I mean, they clearly have 3 kids that are going to shine or look like NBA players. I mean, we saw Herter on Monday night exchanging the jersey with Dwayne Wade, and all these Layman, all these guys playing. This thing has become a place that pumps out NBA players, and I see some NBA players on the floor. I'm wondering how they're going to play St. Patrick's Day and beyond.
Right. Yeah, I'm not, I'm not one of these ones that usually leads the bandwagon with pitchforks to fire coaches. I mean, I'm here, you're hearing grumblings of it at Towson was scary now, after what, people forget what 7 years ago that program was, and, now they've had 2 down years. So I'm not one that usually, leads those things unless they're, really, really deserved. I mean, Turgeon, I think he's followed, it's always say it's tough to follow the legend. It's the guy that follows the legend that usually does better. So I think he's done pretty well there. I mean, they've missed a tournament a couple of years, obviously, but, he's recruited really well. And, you got to get those recruits to play and stay. And, you don't see any dissension among the team. At least it's not visible.
I like these kids, right? I mean, they're fun to watch. This is as fun a Maryland team, which is why I don't want them to be disappointing 3 weeks from now.
Right, yeah, and as far as X's and O's go, I've heard he's not great at halftime adjustments. From what I've heard, that he kind of sticks with the same thing too long, and it's. You can say that about every coach at every loss. That's the nature of the season.
Kid misses a shot, it's your fault, right? Of course,
right. You got out coached. You didn't make the adjustments, but the kid went 1 for 15. So that's not coaching. But
we adjusted. We had him shoot it over there. We had him shoot it over there.
Right.
Robert Canady here. He's Buckets and Birds. He's down at Compass Point Golf, and they're doing all sorts of stuff down there. And the Terps are getting ready for Big Ten. They play Minnesota on Friday night, and other than the Terps and UMBC, it's a little cupboard bare, isn't it, right? I mean, you mentioned Pat Scarry. They haven't won in a couple of weeks. Coppin and Morgan are both going to go into their tournament here with opportunities, but Coppin's not playing well right now. Morgan wins some games, but they haven't won in a month either. I mean, it's really been a kind of a horrific February around here into March for a lot of the local teams. There's not a lot other than UMBC to get excited about outside of Maryland.
No, that's pretty much those two. It's where the postseason hopes are going to hang, and like I said, even I talked about, they've struggled, both those teams, a little bit in February as well. And you hope that they're right, Nick, going into it. UMBC had lost 2 in a row previous to the win over New Hampshire this past weekend, and Maryland wins we just talked about. So it's and UMBC's had some injuries they've dealt with, but no coach will use that as an excuse. Every team has injuries at some point or another, and you've got 12 players there to make the use of, and but those are the two options that we're hanging our hat on. I mean, Towson is playing in the they not officially called the play-in games in their conference tournament, but they're playing in the prelude to the quarterfinals with the 4 teams trying to get into the main bracket down in Charleston this weekend. So it's definitely been a rough season for them as well, and as far as like I said, Loyola and Coppin and Morgan, basically are kind of playing out the string, unfortunately. But they'll definitely be some fun basketball to watch with Maryland. I think in the Big Ten, I think they'll make a decent run there. So we'll see what happens.
Next weekend, Maryland going out to Chicago, and of course Friday night, Minnesota around. Robert Canady will be hitting the little white dimpled ball somewhere in Florida, having a Florida day, maybe checking out some spring training as well. You can find him at Buckets and Birds out on Twitter or at a local hoops facility or the golf course down there at Compass Point in Pasadena. Tell me what's going on down there. You got Irish Open. I know it's tough with the wind and the snow and the rain and all of that stuff to get through this, but it is March, right? March came in like a lion, but you might be out on the golf course next weekend hitting it. It might be 60 degrees this week, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's, the March Madness with the weather as well, I guess you could call it. It's, it's been rough this week. Next week looks like there'll be a little bit of a break, and then you're getting in the middle of March where you're kind of, the times are going to change this coming weekend, so we'll get that extra hour of daylight starting next week. So that that means that people after work can come out and get a couple hours of a golf in. So that's kind of when that time changes and it starts, you're not driving home at 6 o'clock at dark and it's staying light till 7:30, 8 o'clock. I mean, that's when really people start dusting off the golf clubs and buying the new shoes and coming out and saying this is going to be the season that they break 70, 80, or 90, whatever their barrier is. So it's getting ready to get going full time here. We have the Irish Open, as you mentioned, coming up this Saturday, and then shortly after in April, we'll have the Masters Part 3 contest. Once all this basketball stuff is done, we're going to start talking some professional golf next month with the Masters, and we'll get into that in a few weeks. But that's not far down the road either. So.
Ah, friends, the azaleas, all that good stuff. We're a couple weeks away on all that stuff. Robert Canady can be found Buckets and Birds. He's down at Compass Point Golf hitting the ball when available and watching the dribbling ball when available. And I hope that we're going to be a little passing ships here next couple weeks. You're in Florida, and I'm going to be going to Arizona for the owners' meetings later on in the month. But I will catch you next week. We'll figure it all out before the Big Ten tournament, and then, of course, figure it really all out after St. Patrick's Day when we get the big brackets. I'm sure we'll be joining forces here on March 18th as well. Happy trails to you. Hit them straight down in Florida, and whatever you do, enjoy a 75-degree day. We're waiting for those up here next couple weeks.
Actually, 83 I saw an extended forecast, so there you go.
You had to rub that in, didn't you?
I did.
You had to rub that in when it's 14 degrees around here.
That's payback for you rubbing in the Redskins situations, every week. So yeah, I'll be enjoying it down there. We'll definitely catch up with our brackets and compare what's happening in these tournaments next week. Absolutely.
Redskins got a quarterback yet, or no?
Not one that you can count on. I guess they're in the talks of Josh Rosen, and God forbid I heard Ryan Tannehill's name yesterday. So
I got Joe Theismann's number. He's available from what I understand.
Hey, right about now he might be the best available option walking through the door. So.
Sonny's still around too. Sonny, Billy Kilmer, we'll find one of those guys. Here he is, Robert Canady, Redskins fan, and I never let him forget it. He's Buckets and Birds out on Twitter and out on Facebook and out on the golf course down at Compass Point Golf. If you're doing an event, you're doing a tournament, you got something, a big group of folks, or you just want to hit the ball, they got 36 holes down there. Great folks down there in Pasadena at Compass Point Golf, and you can find them out on the web, and the Irish Open, and the beer drinking, and the fun, and the night golf. All that stuff's coming down the line. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. The buyatoyota.com audio vault is there 24 hours a day with all the stuff that you miss here. I've had some snafus on the morning newspaper. My apologies for that. We've had a software upgrade, and oh my God, I'm on fire, but we're going to get it fixed. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, where it's always $5 down, $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. There's 1-2 blocks away from me. There's no excuse to not get out to Planet Fitness, especially when it's cold out like this right now. Also brought to you by the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel Park, where they're racing this week. We are doing all things Preakness and Triple Crown. I had Dick Girardi on this week. You can check that out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Talking horse racing and Bob Baffert and, improbable. That's all I'm saying. Improbable and Bob Baffert. They're racing this weekend. Derby preps ahead. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. It is my dad's 100th birthday, March 5th, 1919 was when he was born, sharing a lot of pics, a lot of images, a lot of memories, a lot of stories, and a lot of stuff that I've, quite frankly, never shared before. And I'm 50, so if I don't get it off my chest now, why? The Baltimore Positive Movement will begin in the next couple of weeks. There is a logo up on the website, a podcast. Don Moeller's going to be joining me. I've got a lot of stories to tell and reasons to tell them. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.